Well, it is 6 o'clock. The Shelby City Planning Commission is called to order. Again, in this setting, we will be providing this live to the public and also be on our website when it's concluded, this meeting. And we have this evening joining us by phone under these circumstances is Mr. Dustin Bowsden. So I will go ahead and call the meeting to order, and I will take the roll call presence. Just answer by saying present or here. Steve Shagg, here. Gus Heidinger,
here.
Dave Downs,
Here.
Dustin Bowsden,
Here.
and Kevin Ernst had a meeting he was involved in and could not make it here this evening, so he is absent. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve electronic minutes from the November 18th, 2019 meeting. Do I have a first?
I so moved.
Okay, your Coach Downs. So Dave Downs is the motion, and then I saw the hand of Mr. Heidinger. So that is the second, Mr. Heidinger. So we have a motion and a second to approve the electronic minutes of November 18, 2019. That seemed like a year ago now, doesn't it? That is so weird. So any discussion on that? I'll take a roll call. Mr. Shagg, yay. Mr. Heidinger, yay. Mr. Downs,
Yay.
Mr. Bowsden,
Yay.
that motion passes. I really don't have any specific reports. We have met here under this heading of a proposed conditional zoning certificate, so I don't really have anything to report per se. Mr. Geis, you have anything from your vantage point?
No.
Okay, we'll move forward then. Unfinished business, the review of the strategic plan. That is still a can we're kicking down the road, but one of these days we'll capture that can. Under new business, we have an application for a conditional zone certificate for Jeffrey Crabtree at 153 Mansfield Avenue. I will move that the application for a conditional zone certificate for Jeffrey Crabtree at 153 Mansfield Avenue be granted. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Shagg and a second by Mr. Downs for that application to be granted. That motion is made to get it on the table, so now that certificate, conditional zone certificate is now on the table, ready for discussion. Discussion? Mr. Geis, want to give us a little background to this?
And Mr. Crabtree would like for me to call in too. He's,
Okay.
I've got his number here, but I just received this. It fell in line with the selling of outdoor stuff and so forth, so that's conditional. So I did have him submit a little paragraph there in the back. So would you like me to give him a call? Or?
Yes, if you would, please.
We'll put you on hold a second, Dustin.
Yeah, no problem.
We're sorry, it's not necessary to dial.
Mr. Crabtree, this is Joe Geis, with the City of Shelby.
Hi, Joe.
Hi. We're live right now in the middle of the planning commission meeting, so we just brought up your application, so now the discussion is going to be starting, so.
Okay, we're good.
Can we conference? You there too, Dustin?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All right, we're in the discussion mode. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Crabtree. Placing storage units, if I recall the wording on that. Get all the information here. Storage solutions, storage sheds and mini barns. on that property, okay. As Mr. Geis said, this would fall under the designation of a conditional zoning certificate, and conditionals are, of course, they're thoroughly looked at and discussed, and all the ins and outs of those, and then we make a decision whether to grant or to deny, or if it fails to pass the motion to grant, then it is denied. Can you give us a little background to the business of Quality Outdoor Storage Solutions, LLC?
Absolutely. Yeah, what we do is we actually have affiliates. They are Amish builders, and these Amish builders build these sheds for us, and we actually sell them to the public, whether it be they come to us, we solicit them on the internet, or we actually, I have remote salesmen in New York and down in southern Ohio, and what they do is they'll go to residential areas, for instance, Dayton, Columbus, areas like that, and we facilitate the process of getting those sheds to the different, to the customers. The reason we need these displays is because most of these places, any type of shed builder is going to have displays on their lot. So when we do have customers that come and visit us, we want to be able to show our displays. When we do solicit people from going door to door, or whether it be internet, probably a good 3/4 of them, at least 2/3 to 3/4 of them, will ask if we actually have display units that they can come see. So this would be this place where we would actually direct them to.
Mm-hmm. How do you determine how many sheds to place on a property?
It's not so much how many there are. We kind of take what the most popular ones are, and we have kind of, I don't want to call them scaled down versions, because they're definitely versions that we sell, but they're definitely smaller versions of the most common ones that we sell. That way at least people see the workmanship. They see kind of an idea of what they look like. We do right now have 4 on the lot, but those are 4 of our most common ones, and we're looking to be right around the 12, possibly 15 mark, but at least 12.
Okay.
My question is it a lot big enough for that many displays?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Speak
you.
up a little bit, Gus. You might have to take your mask. It's all right if you want. If you're 6 feet away, I'm fine.
Is a lot big enough for that many sheds?
It is, because it actually goes back into a kind of a pie shape back there between McDonald's and Richland Bank. So there's a grassy area back there that the landlord has spoken with, Mr. Knowlton. He has no problem with us putting them further, all the way back there.
The 4 parking spots that are in the back behind the building, are they used very often by customers or people that use that building?
No, as a matter of fact, in the last probably 3 or 4 weeks, we've only had 1 employee park there, and that was today.
Is there not still an apartment back there?
No, there's not. That's actually Denman Lace now.
On the back side?
Yeah.
No.
I believe they use that as their stock room back there now.
Okay.
Have you had conversations with Denman Lace?
Yes, I've talked with, I don't know what his name is, I don't remember, but the husband
Kevin.
of the
Kevin,
lady that owns the place, I was talking with him. They are going to keep the parking up front, and then I will have the parking off to the side towards McDonald's. So the whole plan is there's 4 or 5 spots right there next to McDonald's that kind of borders McDonald's property. There's 2 sheds there now. We're going to move those out of the way so that will be our parking, and they've agreed to let us have that rear parking.
So, Joe, is this, I think, a highway business? Is that?
This is in the highway business, yes.
Right, right.
Some of the other concerns, in the parking ordinance, it states once something's a parking, it shouldn't be used for anything else but that. Those parking spots were for when that was something totally different.
We had the drugstore there at one time,
Yeah.
which they occupied a good many of those at once.
Yeah, the landlord was the one that actually had owned the pharmacy here.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
The other concern would be, even on your drawing you submitted, you're showing the, buildings outside the property line. So you wanna make sure that those are definitely staying on yours and not any on McDonald's.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I called, I think where they call it Marion, Chelsea, what's the name of the McDonald's Corporation?
That's the same? Monica.
Monica.
Monica, okay, yeah, I called them, and they're supposed to have the manager come over to make sure that we're not, infringing. So I'm just waiting on her to come over just to make sure, it's the same thing, I just want to be proactive, make sure that we're not doing anything wrong here. And so that's why I want to have them come over, just make sure that we're okay with them also.
When did you place the first storage shed on there? I can't remember. I remember seeing them now, but
It's probably been maybe 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. To be perfectly honest with you guys, I had no idea that I had to have any type of special permit for it, and the builder had actually come up and built the sheds. And then I had talked to Joe, I think probably the day after the third and fourth one was built, and that's when I found out about it. So they have about 5 or 6 they're waiting on. I told them to hold off until after we found out if we could be approved or not. And then after that, I'll have some more up here. So within the next probably week to 10 days, if you guys approve us.
well, conditionals are conditionals, and I've been on the planning commission before, and it's one of the harder decisions to make because you are kind of operating in a little bit of a gray area, and sometimes conditionals are written up with certain conditions upon the conditional. And I've seen that done. I've been a part of that decision-making process as well. It's actually called conditions, if any, upon which certificate is granted. I'm all about growth and economic development and so forth, and I'm a little concerned about the compatibility with highway businesses that are up and down Mansfield Avenue with that many sheds sitting there. That's a little bit of a concern I have, and I also have a concern with the parking as restrictions are loosened up and so forth, folks be out and about, and probably now and through the next several weeks, traffic in and out and the parking space availability might become an issue, because admittedly, the effort would be to put as many models there, of course, to, again, as you mentioned, show all the different types and so forth, and a literal picture is worth 1,000 words, but when I'm looking at the layout, that's an awful lot of squares on that pie piece property. And I don't know if it can be done with fewer actual models and more pamphlets, if that's a consideration, because this is not someplace that's out on the edge of town, or it's not out in the country. This is right on our gateway to the city.
Absolutely.
I don't know what-
I get all those concerns, and it does make sense to me. If you feel that we need to lower the amount, I could probably go down to probably even maybe 10 of them and still have enough displays there that we can get, show our wares and show them exactly how they're built and the different types of models and styles that are available. That would definitely limit or reduce the amount of space that we're taking up with these buildings, and I can actually put them further back towards the grassy area. I understand the concern that, it doesn't really fit in with like the banks and the insurance agencies and the other things in this area, but they're going to be further back off the road, and so it's not going to be, I guess for lack of a better term, an eyesore towards the community. It's like, be towards the back where people will come, we'll direct them back there, and we can walk them through the lot that way. The one thing I would like to do though is I'd like to keep one cabinet towards the front, out of the parking area, because that's kind of that's one of the eye grabbers. That's one of those ones that kind of pull people in.
I can understand that. Have you talked to Mr. Geis about signage?
Yes,
it just seems a little tight there where the buildings are along that, I guess you call it the northeast lot line that runs diagonally. If those sheds are brought onto property proper, it gets to be a little bit of a tight squeeze there between the corner of the existing building. It appears that way by this picture, of course.
Yeah, the picture is not obviously to scale because I didn't have any way of really doing it to scale. It's just done actually in paint, I think is what it was. So I took a
Yeah.
land glide picture, what do you call it, satellite picture, and just kind of drew some boxes in there. So to scale though, because we actually did measure everything out, they will fit, they'll fit just right in there.
So like that car that's parked there now, that black car, him backing out, as Mr. Geis had mentioned, those parking spaces are designed, we have a whole big section of parking spaces and, how wide each, the turn radius and
Sure.
how long the lines are for ingress and egress. That could get very interesting behind that building there, and that's, again, probably where your foot traffic would be as well. It's really a tight squeeze.
Like that picture, it is more of a suggestion of where we want to put them. If you feel that, we don't need any of those parking spots, I have no problem with that. I mean, I'm willing to work however you guys want to. If you feel that we need to keep those ones out of there, I can do that.
Were you anticipating using the back parking spaces for your patrons to look at?
I was actually,
View the models?
yeah, I was going to put models there in those back parking spaces, but
Oh,
again, I mean,
okay.
if you feel that we need more parking spots, I understand that.
Yeah, I know you said you talked to the landlord, so I wasn't sure, the discussion, if you were anticipating using the parking for denim and lace as parking for your customers, and then they would walk around the building. That sounds like what you had in mind.
Well, what I had planned was having the spots up further up close to McDonald's, that kind of abuts right next to McDonald's property there. I think there's like 4 or 5 spots there. And then there's also quite a few spots next to the building where if I was going to possibly put 2 cabins right next to the building, but we don't have to do that. But there'd be space for parking there also. I mean, that's where I park every day, as a matter of fact, right next to it, but that I could always park somewhere else.
Those run parallel with that building, do you remember? Are those ones we have 2 white boxes there now, next to that little island
Yeah.
of no parking? Are those parallel with
Right there.
Yeah, are those parallel with the building itself then?
Well, it's not officially park spots. I mean, it's all blacktop there. That's where the drive-through used to be.
Oh, yeah,
So I kind of park right there next to where the drive-through was.
yeah. See, that's kind of like Mr. Geis is saying, when parking is laid out for one business and then you overlay a new kind of business on that parking, that's where it really creates some interesting dynamics for safety. And then we have, and I know this all sounds negative, but you got 2 businesses with hopefully a good amount of foot traffic. Of course, Denim and Lace is going to come straight into the building. More than likely, they would use those spaces that are perpendicular to Mansfield Avenue in front of the business.
Sure.
And it seems like those have a real easy turn radius. And while they got 2 other parking places there too, of course, you got to have the workers parking. That's where this becomes a little more of a challenge for us, for me, I guess, in a sense.
No, I understand that. So what we did is if we left the back area without displays back there, that parking area back there should be plenty of turn radius in that area where they can leave back out, turn around and head out that way. So that would be like 4 or 5 more spots back there, and then the 4 or 5 spots on the right next to McDonald's. This is, I don't expect to have people in here, dozens of people at a time. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. It'd be great if I was wrong, but the majority of our business is
purchased a shed recently, and it takes a little while to look through them and check it out and so forth. And I understand what you're saying, they're not coming in like they're going through a drive-through movie or something. So again, getting back to the aesthetics, the composition of our highway businesses, this is, we have lawn furniture, and this is kind of a little bit of, it kind of falls in that, it's kind of in that area, but that's, I guess it'd be different if you had 20 sets of lawn swings out there and so forth too, so.
Sure.
I'm trying to figure this all out. I mean, what are you guys thinking? I mean,
If, I'm looking at this, do you have to keep those 4 spots, parking spots open in the back? Since they're designated parking, do you have to keep those open? What if you would move cabins onto that parking area and cluster them back in that area, free up those parking spots in front? Basically, your customers would walk back to the area, you would not drive back in there, you'd walk back. And that would also, other than your display, one display out by the road, everything would be back away.
for the aesthetic value, you're saying.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, you know, eliminate the possibility of a vehicle getting back there and not being able to turn around and having to back all the way back out. Just use that parking area as where you're gonna set your cabins. I know behind that last one there to the northeast, that dips down into a, what do you call them?
Oh,
Not
I mean, like
driveway,
a
but
stormwater
Yeah,
type
stormwater.
situation.
yeah, so you can't really go back very far in that grassy area because it dips down.
I'd be absolutely okay with that. It's kind of along the lines that I was, you know, if we had to have any type of restrictions, that was kind of along the lines I would like to do. You know, I planned on opening up those parking spaces anyway over by McDonald's. And again, the main thing is I'd like to at least have one cabin sitting out there to kind of draw a crowd.
We're at out front.
Right.
We're at out front.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a little bit, there's a telephone pole out there, and then there's a little bit of grass, and then the parking spot. So it's kind of between the parking spots and the telephone pole. So it'd be right in that area.
Can you see what I'm doing?
It's very close to where it is now, but we'd be moving it over probably about, I think, take a look here, probably 4 or 5 feet, I imagine.
You're talking like when you pull in the driveway, that little grassy area right to the right?
Correct. Well, to the left.
Right.
He's talking more towards the left.
To the left there towards McDonald's.
Okay.
So it would come onto the blacktop a little bit, probably about 5 or 6 feet, and then it'd be in the grass about 5 or 6 feet.
The first one you have sitting out there right now, is that approximately where the first one would be?
Yes, sir.
The little cabin
But
with the
move
front deck
a
on
little
it?
bit more towards the road, towards the telephone pole there, to free up a little bit more parking.
Okay.
These lines aren't exact.
Right.
So remember.
I like Dave's suggestion of taking the parking spaces out back. If you don't have cars back there, you don't have the parking issue.
Cluster them up back there.
Yeah.
Well, if, Dustin, you still hearing us okay?
Yeah.
So you kind of got a concept of what Mr. Downs was speaking of about, and Mr. Crabtree is probably going to be fewer than what you'd like, but maybe clustering them back towards the back of the lot. I guess if we're doing a conditional, we're kind of conditionally at this point taking that parking, limiting that parking in a sense. But that way, all the parking would be in actual marked spaces that exist, and that would be consistent with what was done years ago in that pavement. Having the one display cabin as prominently as possible, yet aesthetically pleasing as possible towards the front, towards Mansfield Avenue, and then directing all clientele to the back, but parking more towards the front where they can get in and out safely. You seeing that kind of in your mind?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. I've got Google Maps up, and I also have the tax my daughter's site up too.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah.
I'm not sure who it was that mentioned it, but the more I'm thinking about it now, I think assuming the owner, Denman Lace, or the landlord is okay with maybe putting these models on the back, the parking spots in the rear, and lining them up kind of as shown in the drawing is probably the better option. I mean, you've got more, I don't know that you want people driving back there, because there could be risk of backing into one of these models, you know, and I think it's in just listening to Mr. Crabtree talk about, you know, the number of clients you would anticipate being there at any one given time. You know, a couple spots up front would probably be better. That way they can back out and take the loop around if they need to be able to get back out onto Mansfield Avenue to exit the property. So,
Yeah.
I guess I'd be in favor of that, if my explanation makes sense.
That does. So, a little history on this building. It runs in my mind of when the insurance company was in the front. I believe those folks lived in this portion back here. Where you see those two white cars, there was, somebody actually lived there. A man and his wife and their black Labrador, or German Shepherd. And so, just so the landlord would not, you know, it could really get dicey if the landlord decides he's going to rent that back portion. But you're saying, Mr. Crabtree, that as far as you know, Denham and Lace is now using what was once a living space for storage space for their Denham and Lace, correct?
As far as I understand, yes, it's 2 units now. We're Unit A, they're Unit B, and so everything on that side is actually all one unit now, and that's rented by Denham and Lace.
Right. Yeah, I think I had heard them say that they were going to use that for storage, which, again, keeping that clear, you know, whenever they have delivery trucks and so forth, you just gotta, somebody's gotta be cognizant of that. They're not, I don't think they're huge semi trucks, but in fact, they may haul some of their own stuff in there, but there'll be some articles being brought in by truck, I'm sure, of sorts. That's why it'd be best to kind of keep things behind that building. So the way we've done this before, and gentlemen, if you want to, we can kind of hash this around. I don't want to keep it all evening, but with that idea of conditions, upon certain conditions, if any, see, this can be granted, a conditional zoning certificate can be granted, and then conditions upon which any certificate is granted, we can put in there contingent upon the placement of models as per the planning commission's recommendation. And what we've done before, sometimes we've actually drawn things out on a sketch and say, okay, this is where we believe they should be, or we could put a dotted line and say nothing beyond this dotted line. Mr. Geis, you comfortable with that?
Or you can just say they're all back behind the building except for one.
What part of the building? I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying
Yeah,
specifically,
from right here.
what are you looking at?
So you go from here over.
Yeah, if you take the furthest point, and we can draw that out. Yeah, you say from here. You saying that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So we say from here back, with the exception of the model
Right.
that was out there, that way we have these spaces and these spaces and these spaces.
It'd be the northeast corner.
Yeah, so, but a picture with 1,000 words, if we just put a dotted line
Sure.
across there and say, from here back. I think we can find a way, Mr. Crabtree, but unfortunately, you probably cannot see what we're talking about.
I'm actually looking at Google.
Okay, so
Map also.
according to your models, I guess 1, 2, 3, I don't know, however, whoever you and the landlord can work it out. If he doesn't mind them sitting on the grass back there, Joe, we don't have anything in the zoning with that regard, do we? There's nothing specific.
Yeah.
We could put in the conditional, we could put in there, you know, as long as it's not in violation of any other zoning code, and that might cover us a little bit. Trying to find that balance of accommodation, but yet still having regulation. So let me think. Contingent upon the direction. I'm going to draw something up here. No models. Systems with existing zoning codes. Okay, let me float this out there before I make the motion, because we can change a lot easier before I make the motion. Well, it's not really a motion. I guess it is a motion. This would be the contingency. So the condition upon which the certificate is granted, contingent upon the direction from the Shelby City Planning Commission that models are placed on property as per drawing from the commission, and that all placements are consistent with existing zoning codes. We'll just draw out a little, we'll just put that dotted line, just put little, basically little squares, and that would give you some liberty, Mr. Crabtree, but you would know, don't cross the line in the sand, so to speak. On the pavement.
Gotcha.
The dotted line across the pavement, and I think that would give you enough elbow room. And again, probably not as many as you would desire in a larger location, but probably as many as we can safely put in a smaller. And then that model, we would draw that model out there. We all know what you're aiming for.
That thing couldn't be right up to the telephone pole, because that's in the right of way, so it couldn't be in our right of way.
Okay.
So we can kind of put on the drawing where the right of way is and where you have to stay back.
That'd be perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Dustin, does that sound okay? Is that digestible?
Yeah, that's absolutely perfect. I mean, that's going to allow us at least to have our wares being able to be shown, have people come to the site and, you know, take a look at the displays. I mean, that's a big thing that people are concerned about, and I get that. So it enables us to continue on with our business as far as what we need to do, the functionality of it. And, you know, as long as you guys are okay with it, it'll, you know, ticks up for you guys. We're good on both ends, it sounds like.
Okay. So, so I will amend my motion, I had originally moved that the application for a conditional zoning certificate for Jeffrey Crabtree at 153 Mansfield Avenue be granted, and I'm going to amend to it with, here's my amendment, to add with conditions upon which certificate is granted. And so that, and those conditions are contingent upon the direction from Shelby City Planning Commission that models are placed on the property as per drawing from the commission, and that all placements are consistent with existing zoning codes. That's my amendment to my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Downs, okay.
Before,
So that, we have a motion by Mr. Shagg and a second by Mr. Downs to amend the original motion with the conditions upon which the certificate is granted. Any discussion on that? I think we've pretty well discussed it. So this will be a motion to amend the original motion, so we'll need to get that done first. So I'll take a roll call if there's no more discussion. Mr. Shagg, yay. Mr. Heidinger,
Yay.
Mr. Downs,
Yay.
Mr. Bowsden.
Yay.
That motion to amend passes. Now we're back to the main motion with the conditions as so described. Any further discussion on the main motion to grant the application with the conditions? Any further discussion on that granting? All right, we'll take a roll call vote on that. Mr. Shagg, yay. Mr. Heidinger,
Yay.
Mr. Downs,
Yay.
Mr. Bowsden.
Yay.
That motion to grant an application for a conditional zoning certificate with conditions is passed. Okay?
I'll get in touch with you tomorrow, Mr. Crabtree.
Great, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Thank you.
thank you for your input.
You're all set.
I appreciate the time tonight.
All right, yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Any further miscellaneous business? No, I'll move to adjourn. We'll get, still there, that is fun. And, do I have a second to adjourn? Mr. Heidinger.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, there we go. I'm gonna wait till we get it back, try to get back
I
on.
think he's, Dusty, you're still on there, aren't you?
Oh, hey, you man, you're on, okay. I thought you said goodbye, all right. So all in favor to adjourn, Mr. Shagg, yay, Mr. Heidinger,
Yay.
Mr. Downs,
Yay.
Mr. Bowsden.
Yay.
Shelby City Planning Commission adjourns at 6:39. Thank you, gentlemen, thank you, Bowsden, for calling in, my friend.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks,
for-
guys.
Meeting is adjourned.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Those are toughies.